We want to get right to it with our political panel today. Joining us, former Obama campaign and administration member, Democratic strategist, she pronounces her name Domonique James, and senior fellow at the American First Policy Institute and former Speaker of the Oklahoma House of Representatives, T.W. Shannon. Both of you, good morning. Thank you for being with us.
Good morning, Dominique and Fanchon. A pleasure to be here.
Yes, thank you. So, Dominique, Vice President Harris has been criticized now from both sides for not stating policy, then flip-flopping on policy. I mean, we can cite fracking as an example. Now she finally added policies to her campaign website for the first time. It happened literally the day before the debate that's taking place. She's focusing on the economy, freedoms, crime, and national security, while also attacking her opponent, Donald Trump. It's an interesting strategy to post this information just one day before the debate. You know, why would she finally reveal her cards right before going up against her Republican opponent? And what kind of an impact do you see these policies having on the campaign?
Well, first, I would say Vice President Harris and now candidate Harris has accomplished so much in literally, I believe, just 2 months, maybe even less, of her becoming the candidate. So a lot of the conservative attacks and pressure, she doesn't have this and doesn't have that. The team is literally putting the campaign together and sprinting to November. With that said, the two policy pages are not alike. You go to Donald Trump's page, for example, it looks like his Twitter page. There's literally all capital letters, I'm not exaggerating, and no periods. You will see that Vice President Harris has thoughtful policy, literal paragraphs, coherent sentences, and she really has a comprehensive vision of how she wants to help the American people.
TW, I know you're going to respond to that, and we know the rules for this debate. Lindsay Keith joined us last hour. She helped us break down what those rules look like. Do any of these rules stand out to you as playing a really pivotal part in the outcome of this debate, and do any of them play more towards one candidate's strengths than the other? We know Donald Trump has been on the campaign trail, really hitting policy. Kamala Harris is now, like Dominique just said, and Dominique just reiterated, now just mentioning some very general policy categories. What's your response to that?
I don't think that the format of the debate is really going to affect Donald Trump's performance one way or the other. This is a guy who's done more presidential debates than anybody in history. He's won every one he's ever done. In fact, his latest debate, he ended a 50-year career of a career politician named Joe Biden. So I don't think the rules matter. But going back to the previous comments about the comparison between the two candidates, listen, you've got one candidate who has sat down with the American people consistently, telling them what he believes, and you've got another candidate who is completely hidden from the American people. Since announcing for 2 months ago, she's had one taped interview that was completely edited and performed before the American people without any real policy discussion. She's waited here in the 11th hour to finally put up on her webpage what she actually wants to do with the country. I haven't had a chance to review it completely, but what I do know is this. Kamala Harris is the most duplicitous candidate in American history. She's flip-flopped from everything on fracking to the border. She's even featuring Donald Trump's border wall in her latest television commercial. The American people want to know, what does Kamala Harris really believe? We're hopeful we'll hear that tonight at the debate. But to be honest, I'm not real optimistic that she's going to be real honest with the American people, because she's failed to do it since she was anointed the candidate for the Democrats 2 months ago.
Dominique, to TW's point, why is Kamala Harris hiding from the media? I mean, yes, she may, in your opinion, have a better looking website with great, grammar and, lowercase and all of that. But I mean, she's not addressing the media. And that is such an important part of a candidate's journey into essentially the presidency in their hopes. So how do you answer that?
I have two very strong opinions about this, actually, because I started my political career as a field organizer, being in the community. People win votes. You have to talk to people. And if you look at where Kamala Harris has spent her time, it is out in the community, in key states, meeting voters, hosting giant rallies to get directly in front of voters, and the media is throwing a little hissy fit. I say that because I also work in media and communications. With that said, again, if we look at the grand scope of what she's had to accomplish in such a short period of time, this is just a timing issue. I would add the two candidates are not the same. Vice President Harris is not only from the middle class, she spent her career serving people in the middle class. President Trump or Donald Trump has spent his career scamming the middle class. So these are not the same. These are not the same candidates, not the same policies. And I would finally add, when you look at what they stand for, just recently, President Trump was asked for his clear policy about childcare, excuse me. He did not have an answer. He fumbled through it. J.D. Vance said, ask your grandparents to look over the kids, which is a luxury. And I think the American people.
Jump in.
Go ahead, TW.
Yeah, I listen, it's one thing to have your own opinion, but you can't have your own facts. The facts of the matter are Donald Trump led this country to the most prosperous economy we've ever seen. We had 0 wars, and we had a completely safe, secure border. That all happened while he was president of the United States. Since Joe Biden and Kamala Harris came into office, we've seen a complete depletion of American standing around the world. We've entered into supporting 2 wars now, and we've seen a border that's completely open with over 15 million illegals crossing into our country. That happened on Kamala Harris's watch. And so the idea that somehow now this is a candidate that hasn't had enough time to address the American people, that's just not going to fly. She has time for what she believes is important. She has time to go dancing around with college kids. She has time to sit down with real journalists and address the issues that are facing the American people. She's refused to do that. It's a classic case of avoid and bait and switch. And the reason is because she didn't even have to go through a debate. The question I would ask Dominique, did you vote for Kamala Harris in the primary?
Well, I'm not going to answer that question. Kamala Harris was actually not my first candidate in the primary. However, what I have say, and I will even say this as a Black woman, what has brought me around, and I even had to do my own research, and I will encourage your voters to do their own research as well, is actually see what the administration has accomplished, the real tangible change. Donald Trump was telling people to go drink bleach. The Biden-Harris administration passed the American Rescue Plan Reduction Act. And we've had to just really be honest about how devastating COVID in particular was for the American people. So we are on the recovery, and we need to make sure that all people, whether you're lower class, middle class, or affluent, we are recovering at the same pace and we have opportunity, and that we're not being abused, frankly, by a lot of the corporations that have taken advantage of the situation and are hurting the American people.
Dominique, the American people aren't hurting because they're living too well. They're hurting because the government is living too well. Inflation is crushing the American people, and that was caused because of the spending of Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. That's a fact, and you can't change it.
I do want to thank both of you for joining us this morning. And Dominique and TW, as you both know, here at Marriage Street, we stick to the facts. We want to make sure that people understand and can make educated decisions. So when we look at actual facts in the record, as you both know, Donald Trump had the lowest unemployment rate for minorities, for Black people, the highest number of minority-owned businesses that started under his administration. And polls are now showing that the American people trust him more. We've seen that in the Rasmussen report when it comes to the economy, when it comes to crime, when it comes to those issues. So we appreciate both of you sharing that information with us this morning, and we would love to have you both back to continue this conversation, because tonight at the debate, the viewers are going to be watching.
And, you know, before we let you go, I want to ask you both this, because this is most likely going to be the first and only presidential debate we'll see between these two. How important is this in terms of messaging and to the voter? Dominique, go ahead. We'll start with you.
I would agree. This is a very important debate, especially for those undecided and independent voters who may still be listening. I would actually say I think the stakes are higher for Harris. She still is introducing herself, to the American public. In addition, and you mentioned this earlier, she only has 2 minutes to accomplish 2 really important things. Push back against the lies and misinformation that we know is going to happen, as well as make her case. The good news is he's debating Donald Trump, and he's the same old Donald Trump that the American people know. He's literally older at 78. He'll be the oldest candidate, but he also hasn't changed. He's still divisive. He's still slinging personal attacks. And Kamala offers a new way forward and a more united vision of America.
TW?
Yeah, I would just add, we certainly need someone that can unite this country, because under Kamala Harris and Joe Biden, we've become more divided than we've ever been as a nation. And I would add, that Donald Trump's record is solid. And I would put his record up against that of Kamala Harris. And I would disagree with one point. I do agree with you, Dominique, that